What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only Tesla stock and what you should be looking after for the future. I'm also going to break down what's going on with SPY and the QQQ and many other tickers out there based off the levels we're seeing and based off the technicals. I'm going to break down what's happening to Tesla with Elon Musk as a big announcement involving him just came out, and also what's happening with the debt ceiling, as this will have a big effect on the markets as the House is getting ready to vote for it very soon. Before I break anything down about all of this information, some very important levels to watch for going into tomorrow, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, whether it's $1 or $100, it's up to you. You are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $3,000. And the best part is, any could be a free Tesla share. The offer ends very soon in just about 9 hours, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. All right, so as far as Tesla goes, this thing was up 1.38% for the day, and the day was very wild, a very crazy day is what Tesla had. Now, going into yesterday, I released a video and I warned you guys that Tesla could see some downside based off the technicals. I predicted that yesterday, right? And what happened was Tesla got the downside. We were at about 204 yesterday, closing around the 200s, and we saw Tesla just sell off as the day went on, and it came all the way down to the mid 190s. So it had a very sharp sell off for the first couple of hours into 195, and that was the level I talked about if Tesla broke below 197.5. Did I mention that if this level broke, we could see Tesla drop even lower than that? And I was leaning more bearish from yesterday going into today. Now we got the move to the downside and we got this very bearish looking move. But then what happened was Tesla started forming this inverse head and shoulder like formation and started pushing just a bit, breaking above the 50 EMA. As soon as this happened and as soon as I was available, because I am typically busy working on my business and other things like that throughout the day, I released this second video and I mentioned to you guys that we have a debt ceiling update and we got some bullish news that helped Tesla pump alongside the markets. And this bullish news involves some Fed speakers like Jefferson talking about a potential pause from the Fed, Joe Biden talking about the debt ceiling and being very optimistic, McCarthy, McHenry, and Mitch McConnell and many other politicians were very optimistic. And as a result of this, we saw the market just continuing to pump a bit as we approached the final hour. Then SPY sold off a little bit at the end of the day, and Tesla continued to sell off in the very beginning before getting one monstrous pump at the very end of the day, a monstrous pump for a very bullish looking close. And that's because of this news involving Elon Musk. At least this played a very big role. Now, Elon Musk will reportedly show off the new Model 3 with the Tesla stock being at this buy point according to the articles. And why is this important? Well, Elon Musk is in China. He went to Beijing not too long ago and he was greeted with lots of food and things like that. He was very happy, very optimistic, and he's looked at as a celebrity over there. In fact, he's looked that way in most places around the world, but everyone has different views, or at least a lot of people do, in these different countries and different parts. But in China, he was very much welcomed there and he was very happy to be there, very honored. And then the news came out that Elon Musk is going to be presenting a potential new upgraded version of the Model 3 right around the Shanghai Gigafactory tomorrow. And that's some very good news. Tesla went bananas when this news came out. Tesla just started pumping very hard. And this makes me bring up, how accurate is TA? How accurate is technical analysis? And the truth is, technical analysis is fairly accurate. It tends to be quite accurate typically, but it's not everything. Okay, it's not everything. It's not always going to be 100% correct and call out every little detail because in my videos from yesterday, for example, there's no way I could have known that this super bullish news would come out and call the move like this. I was simply looking at what was in front of us at the time, and it did call this move to the downside almost perfectly in the very beginning. And let me just tell you guys that when we formed this, big drop to the downside, Tesla did form, at least right here, a bullish divergence in the process of doing so. And the technical started flipping a little bit more bullish. But what helped this thing pump very hard could have been determined by technicals, at least to some degree. We had like this inverse head and shoulder that was forming, and then Tesla got this monstrous pump. But like I said before, when trading and investing, this is not financial advice, but technical analysis is just part of the picture. It's just a nice tool that we traders could use, and it tends to be very accurate, right? But it's not everything. And that's why it's very important to look at the news, understand the context of the situation. You have to understand what's actually going on because that will dictate and play a big role when using it with technical analysis side by side. And oftentimes, technicals do align with the news. And in this case, this was some pretty good stuff for Tesla. Kathy Wood said some good things about Tesla in the morning too. I mentioned this in the morning. She said Tesla is going to be one of the AI winners in her opinion. That's some good news. She also said that Nvidia is overvalued, in her opinion, and that's once again very important to note. So I gave you guys some good updates. I just want to note that I should be able to give you guys pre-market updates almost every day or every weekday, but I'm not always going to be able to give you guys intraday updates, but I'm going to try my best to just take some time off to do so, just for you guys, to give you guys as much data as possible, as much knowledge, because it's very helpful for so many people, in my opinion, especially when I talk about these levels. And I want to continue to help you guys, right? Now, anyways, for Thursday, let me just note that we have Dollar General and Macy's reporting earnings. This is going to be important for the retail side. And then we have some big tech, like Dell coming out. This isn't like big tech in general, but this is like a bigger tech stock that we don't typically see during times like this. But Dell is reporting earnings. That's going to be important for tomorrow alongside ChargePoint. So make sure you're ready for that. And then for data, we have some important data coming out for Thursday. For Thursday, we have, let me see, initial jobless claims 1 hour before the market opens, continuing jobless claims, and just lots of jobs numbers for the morning, 1 hour before the market opens, wherever you are. Then we have the PMI report for the S&P 500 global manufacturing, the ISM manufacturing data 15 minutes after the market opens, then 30 minutes after as well. So lots of manufacturing PMI reports are coming out. That's very important for the state of the economy, and the Fed will look at all of this data. Very important stuff. Expect lots of volatility after the first 15 minutes and the first 30 minutes of the trading day. All right, so be careful there. Let me also add that there's going to be some crude oil data later on, not as important. And then we have one Fed speaker at about, what is this, like 1 o'clock? I think 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. We have that important data. For Friday, we have some very important data, even more important than Thursdays. The unemployment rate is coming out alongside the participation rate. Unemployment is going to be huge. This is going to be massive 1 hour before the market opens. Make sure you're ready for this for Friday. But until then, so prepare for lots of volatility for the first 15 to 30 minutes. And now let's add on talking about SPY. We have the highest put to call ratio in the option chain for SPY of the month of June. And this is going to be happening on Friday. There are a lot of puts expiring. The market makers may be inclined to try to cause a short squeeze, but we need some data first. We need some news first for me to confirm this, or at least like gain confidence. We have to wait for what happens with the House and the debt ceiling and other things like that. But I just want to note that the market makers are probably thinking this in their heads because there's so many puts expiring, almost 1.3 million. I'm not guaranteeing it yet. I'm not saying any promises yet. I just want to note that that is what the data is starting to suggest, and it's a real possibility. For this whole debt ceiling fiasco, it's not over yet. McCarthy and Biden had the agreement, obviously, with the bill. And now it has to pass to the House. The House right now just made a vote. So let me read what this vote was. I just saw it like a couple of minutes ago. They voted on something very important. Basically, they approved the measure to begin the 1 hour debate on the debt ceiling bill ahead of an evening vote on the passage later on. This means that they're going to be debating and arguing and just playing politics again, as they usually do, for some time before the vote starts. And we have a lot of time to go until they actually start voting. It may take a couple of hours from the time I'm recording this, but make sure you watch that carefully. If the House passes this, like Mitch McConnell said this morning, he said it's likely going to happen today, then by Thursday, we could see the Senate take their hands on this. And the Senate is going to start voting very soon too. If the House and Senate approve this, that is it. We're going to be ready for the debt ceiling to be raised. And that's going to have a big effect on the market, on the Fed's policies, and the stock market is going to have a big reaction. If they do vote to raise it, that could cause a positive reaction for the stock market. If not, if they delay it, again, I just don't know if that's going to happen, which is why I'm not really holding any positions. I'm not telling you to do that, by the way. It's just my opinion. But I'm not holding anything because I don't know how this is going to play out, and I want to just manage risks and just look for scalping opportunities for tomorrow. Now, for Tesla, the news came out that Tesla started shipping cars at less than 50% charge, and it gives free supercharging miles. So that's some very, very good news for Tesla moving forward. I mean, Tesla is continuing to incentivize more people to buy their cars, and they're offering free supercharging, 150 free supercharging kilometers to compensate them. So that's pretty awesome. I mean, a lot of people need to start buying them up because their inventory levels are still going up for some of their models. The news is coming out right here that Elon Musk plans to show off the new Model 3. That is once again great news for Tesla. I really hope he does this because if he does this, this could cause Tesla to pump even harder. We have to watch the levels very carefully. I also want to add that the debt ceiling news is also going to affect Tesla. So expect quite a bit of volatility and be very careful with it. I'm going to talk about some levels just a couple of minutes. The Model 3 has a very high amount of inventory right now. It's getting close to like that 900 level. It's currently at like 850, I think, like around 850 or so, a little bit higher than that. That's very important because we're seeing this backlog of the Model 3s. Production is very high, but demand is not keeping up with supply. That is not good for Tesla moving into the next quarterly earnings report. But what is good news is the Model Y was one of the top selling cars, if not the top selling model of any car for Q1 of this year. And the inventory levels are still relatively low, just under 200, I think around a little bit over 100. That's still very, very low for them. And that's a good sign for Tesla. We are still seeing decent signs, decent demand for the Model Y. The Model 3 needs to catch up though, so we need to see more incentives by Tesla. Now, on top of this, let me just add that we have 150 million in volume for Tesla. It's getting good volume. The volume spiked at the very end as Tesla got a lot of buying pressure. Short volume is starting to drop a bit. That tends to be a decent sign. And let me just remind you guys that because the inventory levels are high for the Model 3, Elon Musk is planning on showing off the Model 3 specifically. So he knows that the inventory levels are kind of high. He wants to spur up demand. That could be one of the main reasons as to why he's doing it, or at least that could play a big role. Finally, let me add that for the data, the price-price ratio is climbing. Tesla is outperforming the market again, gaining some relative strength. There are no new reports from any analysts that came out. And right here, we can see high volume and lots of this. There is a lot of buying, even like up here in the 202s. That helped Tesla pump at the very end. Lots of excitement came. For Thursday, Tesla tends to be green only 48% of the time historically. And June tends to be a very strong month. We're starting June tomorrow for Tesla. So keep that in mind. Tesla tends to do very well during times like this. It tends to do very well during the second hour and also during the fourth hour. And sometimes, like today, we could see a big spike at the very last hour, right? If we get a big piece of news. But typically, we tend to be weak during the final hour of the day. We're only green about 40% of the time, if not a little bit lower than that. And finally, last but not least, the short interest on Tesla went up. Just recently, we saw about 41 plus million Tesla shares shorted, and a lot of these shorts may start covering if Tesla continues to pump the way it has been. Now let's talk about the charts. I'm going to try to keep this part a little bit brief. Let me exclude the extended hours real quick just to show you guys something. On the 1 hour time frame, Tesla has this. There's this gap up here around this 207 area that's unfilled. Now, Tesla was getting some sell signals before, and that's why I talked about Tesla seeing some downside, and Tesla did drop intraday. But then Tesla got to bounce off some decent news from the Fed speakers and other individuals, and then Tesla started pumping even harder thanks to Elon Musk. There's a gap at around 207 that's unfilled. We could see Tesla make its way all the way back up to 207 if we continue to pump. I just wanted to note that Tesla has a lot of potential, and the chart's looking pretty decent for now. There is a bearish divergence starting to develop right now, but there's no confirmation of it playing out. Okay, so this tells me that even if Tesla pumps very hard, there will be a rug pull coming later on in the future. It doesn't have to happen immediately tomorrow. It could take like a week. If this is still valid by the time this thing pumps more, if it's still valid, then that would be the case. But for now, there's no confirmation that this bearish divergence will play out, and it's best to just be patient regardless. Now, anyways, let's break down these charts very, very quickly. I'm going to talk more about Tesla in just a couple of minutes. Okay, guys, honestly, I don't know how the market's going to move for tomorrow exactly because, it's very hard to predict depending on the debt ceiling. And that's why I'm going to just go over the bullish and bearish cases and talk about confirmation, because we're waiting for the vote, and the vote will have a big impact on what happens. I will talk more specifically about what's about to happen during the pre-market tomorrow. But let me just note that if SPY is bullish, okay, we have to break above the 1 hour and also the 30 minutes 50 EMA right here. This is the major resistance. If it breaks 418.5 tomorrow morning, or tomorrow thanks to the debt ceiling deal, we're going to see SPY fly all the way up closer to 420 in my opinion. We have to break 418.5 to get there. If we're bearish, we're going to be watching first off the 30-minute support around this 417.39 area. If 417 fails us, it's going to come all the way down back to about 416.5 to about 416 flat. Additionally, if you look at the 1 hour time frame, there was support at the 200 EMA. So watch the 200 EMA as support on the hourly, and then the 50 EMA could be resistance on either the hourly or the 30-minute time frame. If it breaks below this 416 area, it's going to come all the way down to 415 flat. Now we're about to get a bullish cross on the PPO, and there's a potential bullish divergence developing technically right now. There's technically one like right here that has been developing, so there's a good chance the market's going to try to bounce, and the odds are starting to favor that, but I'm not really too inclined to saying that objectively because I don't know what's happening with the debt ceiling yet. I don't have the true knowledge in my head, even though I am leaning more towards the House voting for it and helping to pass the debt ceiling agreements to the Senate, but I just don't know for sure. I'm not 100% confident. I don't know the news yet, and that's why I have to remain objective and talk about both sides, and I will give you guys a better update by tomorrow morning on what's likely to happen. For the QQQ, for us to turn bullish, it needs to break this 348 resistance. If it breaks it tomorrow, it's going to fly all the way up to about 350 plus. If it fails to break it and it ends up coming down, watch it's either the 30-minute or the hourly 50 EMA. I think it's the 1 hour time frame. If it breaks below this 346.5 area, it's going to test 345. Okay, so bearish case would be breaking this low of the day and hitting 345. Bullish case is going to be a break above the high of the day, breaking above this 348 resistance. It's going to likely make its way up to 350 if we manage to get that. And that's going to be where this gap happens to be on the QQQ. All right, so those are the levels to watch for. For Tesla, once again, if we're bullish on Tesla, okay, let me just remind you guys that now we have this new zone. Tesla, if it broke 200, I was talking about this in my video that I released intraday. Tesla would likely retest 200. That's what happened. You could see it started fighting and chopping a bit around 200. But if it broke it, you're going to be watching 202. And then 202, around the 202 area, that's where Tesla would have resistance. Instead, it just continued to get bought up, and it went to the next major resistance between 204 and 205. Okay? If Tesla turns bearish, okay, if something bad happens, let's just say Tesla cools off or the debt ceiling is not passed hypothetically, Tesla's going to retest 202. If that fails us, there's 200. If that fails us, you're going to be watching the 1 hour, not the 1 hour, I think the 30 minutes, 50 EMA, I believe it is, around 199. If 199 fails, it's likely going to come down into the 198 support, then 195, then 193. Those are some support zones to watch for. If Tesla's bullish, there is a potential bullish triangle developing. It's looking more bullish in my eyes with this inverse head and shoulders formation. If it's more bullish, we're going to be watching resistance at 204 to 205. Break above that, then we have the gap fill to 207. Break 207, we're going to be watching 210, then 212 and beyond for Tesla. Could it pump that hard? It is a possibility, but this will depend heavily on what Elon Musk announces, if Elon Musk truly does do that, because sometimes reports are not always accurate. But I do believe the odds favor him reporting the Model 3 and just showing us the upgrade, which could help Tesla pump more. And finally, don't forget about the debt ceiling. That's going to affect Tesla too. So watch support and resistance levels very, very carefully. I will give you guys a better update by tomorrow morning. For Ford, it came to my target of about $12. If 12 fails on us, it's going to make its way down to about 11.8. If it's bullish, if it gets a bounce, we're going to be watching 12.22, which is where the 50 is, and the next major resistance. Break that, then we could get closer to 12.5. For, let's just see, NIO, let me just know NIO is going to make a very, very big move depending on deliveries. If deliveries are good, we're going to see NIO bounce. There's a bullish divergence developing on the RSI and the MACD. If not, NIO could crash all the way down to 7, if not 6.5, if it does not do too well for deliveries. I'm leaning more towards it bouncing based off the bullish technicals, but we have to wait for the numbers to come out. For the NASDAQ, kind of in the middle right now, it looks like it could come down a bit. It hasn't fully gotten this like bullish confirmation yet. So we're going to have to wait for tomorrow morning. we're about to get across on the MACD, so there's a sign that it wants to bounce a bit and or at least slow down on the bearish momentum. We don't have confirmation yet, right? If it fails and breaks the low of the day, we're going to retest 12,889. If it breaks to the upside and breaks the high of the day, it has the potential to make its way up into like the low 13,000s. I'm leaning more towards it trying to hold this 50 EMA. Could get a retest and then bounce, or it could just bounce off here on the 30-minute time frame. Either way, it is looking like it has some potential to bounce, but that's going to depend on the debt ceiling. Same with SPX. If we're bullish and break the high of the day, we're going to start filling this gap. If it breaks above 4190, it's going to likely fill this gap to about the 4200s. If it fails to do that and it comes down and breaks below the 30-minute 50 EMA, it's going to likely come all the way back down to the low of the day. If it breaks below this, if it fails, we could see the 4116s around that area. If that fails, then we're going to be watching 4159, which is where the 200 EMA happens to be. For the VIX, it's just trading sideways, not really doing too much. It's very indecisive for now, but it does technically have some support around where the breakout was of the falling wedge. So I'm going to just watch this thing trade sideways for now. Same with the QQQ. It is trying to break a bit, but it's remaining very choppy now, hitting resistance around this 23.28 zone. I'd watch that carefully. The dollar has a potential bearish divergence that developed, and it's going to be testing the 200 EMA. If it breaks below this, it could come down a little bit lower. That's going to be associated with the market pumping more thanks to the debt ceiling. But if it bounces off this 200 EMA, this could become bearish for the stock market. So we'd have to watch this carefully. It depends on the news for tomorrow. For Coinbase, it depends on the debt ceiling. If we pump more, it's going to see 64 plus. If it fails to get the pump, we're going to see 60.5, then 59.29, potentially even lower levels like that. It is slowing down on the MECD, so the odds favor it potentially cooling off a bit. But once again, it depends on the news that comes out. For Aapl, if we're bullish, it's going to make its way all the way up to 180 again. If we're bearish, it's going to come all the way down to retest this low at 177 flat. If that fails on us, it's going to be 176.5, then 175 flat, which is where this gap fill is. Okay, those are support and resistance levels. There's a potential bull flag that could technically be developing. I'm not really counting on it though. It really depends on the news. I'm hoping Apple gets a pump to 180, but that once again depends on what happens. Nvidia is quite in a way, it's kind of oversold because Cathie Wood said some negative things about it, technically saying it's overvalued. It is very close to major support at 375. It's currently at 378. There's a chance it's going to likely try to bounce since it's forming this bullish divergence. I could see it either dropping a little bit, then try to bounce, or try to bounce from here. This will be dictated by the debt ceiling, but the technicals are kind of pointing the direction of this thing trying to bounce soon. That's what I'm seeing for Nvidia, but it always depends on the debt ceiling. For Google, if the debt ceiling causes a pump, with the House voting for it, we could see Google retest 124. If it breaks that, 125 is going to come. Break that, then 127 plus is going to come. If it fails to do so, we're going to be watching support at 122.89. If that fails on Google, then we have this imbalance way down here closer to 120 into like the lower like 120s around there, 121 to 120. It's going to come all the way down there if it fails. If the market does end up just dropping because of the debt ceiling, that could end up happening. I'm leaning a little bit more bullish though. That's just my bias, but I just don't know for sure. I'm just gonna have to wait and see. For Amazon, for bullish, we're gonna be watching 123, break 123, then we're gonna see 125. We're just chopping around for now, and we have some resistance around the 121.8 area. It's getting very tight. It is looking a little bit more bearish on the bigger time frames, but that depends on the news. There's also a potential bullish divergence that developed on Amazon, so it could try to bounce from here. If Amazon turns bearish, you have to watch the 119 support. If 119 fails, there's 118.5 followed by 116, which is where we have this imbalance. Where am I leaning towards? A little bit more bullish, but once again, it all depends on the debt ceiling. Meta is a very, very unusual one. It's looking a little bit more bullish. It was a little bit stronger than I thought. I told you guys Meta would likely come down first, then try to bounce, but it ended up closing a little bit green and a little bit stronger than I expected. Now, for Meta, here's what I want to note. There is potential for it to try to make its way back to this high around this 269 area. May cool off first and retest the 50 and then try to do so from a technical standpoint. If it's bearish, it has to break below this support at the 262 area. That fails us. There's 258 and 256. Now, I'm leaning more towards it trying to hold these levels and trying to hold above the 50 EMA as support, but there's one problem with it. I'm noticing some massive, massive put sweeps bunch of them, a ton of them, dozens of them on Meta. Some whale out there is betting that Meta is going to get a huge rug pull over the next couple of weeks. Could they be wrong? Yes. Could they be right? That's also very possible, and the odds do favor that because they seem very confident that Meta is going to come crashing down soon. Maybe they know something, maybe they don't. Who knows? But I'm going to be careful with Meta, okay? Be very careful with it. Anyways, for Tesla, guys, don't forget, if we're bullish, Tesla has to break these resistance zones around 204 to 205. If Tesla breaks it, it has the potential to fly to 207, 209, 212, and beyond. If Tesla fails to break it and it just cools off, 202, 200, 199, followed by 198, then 195, and 193 are going to be the next major support zones. I know I listed a ton of them, it's pretty funny. But anyways, for Tesla, there is potential for it to keep pushing. We have this inverse head and shoulder formation that played out. We have a bullish potential triangle that's developing, which is looking pretty good for Tesla. The problem with Tesla, though, is on the hourly time frame, there is a valid developing uh, what is this? A regular bearish divergence that is technically still developing. That does not mean Tesla has to tank, guys. I'm not saying it has to tank immediately. If this isn't validated, it could just keep going. But for now, it is valid and it's still in the process of developing. If Tesla pumps more and this is still valid, this could be hinting that Tesla could be getting ready for a rug pull later on once Tesla's at these high levels. That's why you have to be careful with these moves, okay? But as of right now, there's no sign of Tesla tanking yet. Okay, there's no sign of it despite these potential sell signals developing. There's no sign of them playing out just yet. So be very, very careful and be very, very conscious. Now, Elon Musk, he may cause Tesla to pump initially thanks to the whole announcement, but be careful because if these sell signals are still developing and they're still valid afterwards, it could get, kind of like a buy the rumor, sell the news kind of event type of vibe or even like reaction. So be very careful with this. However, I'm not going to make the call until it actually happens. I'm simply just warning you about what is developing. With that said, if Musk pumps this stock tomorrow as he's in China and he presents some new model upgrades in Shanghai, Tesla could pump even more. So watch these resistance zones. If not, watch support. Don't forget the debt ceiling will affect the whole market, and do what you have to do to remain as calm as possible through all of this, and get ready to watch the news because the house is making a major move that will affect the entire market, including how Tesla and many other stocks move. All right, thank you all for listening. Don't forget about the Webull link, which is down below in the description. Deposit any amount of money and you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. Last but not least, don't forget about the merch I have around the comments section. If you if you check out the comments section down below and very close to the description area and the comments section, you could buy a shirt or tank top that says to the hood or to the moon or buy the dip. It would really help me if you do choose to do so. If not, I'm also okay with it. But please check it out if you're interested. If not, completely fine with me. Thanks for listening. Tesla to the moon as the long term is still incredibly bright alongside the whole market. And peace out.